Hey everyone, welcome back to the Insurance Lounge with me, Tanya.
And me, Christy.
We are your local insurance agent here in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and we are on a mission to make insurance less boring, more useful, and something you can actually feel confident about. Our goal is to help you protect your family, your income, your business, and your future, all without making things overly complicated. So, with that said, Christy, what are we talking about today?
Well, I think it's official at this point, right? Spring is really here. And
Yay!
probably still going to have a couple of cold snaps, but spring is here. And with that, and especially around here, we've got all these nice windy roads, and it's time for the bikes to come out. So let's talk
That's
about
right.
motorcycle insurance.
Yeah. So now, before you rack up so many miles, we want to really make sure that you are covered the right way because typically, when we have a shiny new bike, and people think about motorcycle insurance, most people really just think about, the insurance for the bike only.
It's a big
And
investment. You want to cover the bike.
that's
Yep.
right. That's right. Now, however, sometimes people miss out on the coverages that actually really matters more.
Way
So,
more, right?
yeah, so way more. So if you
Frankly, yeah.
absolutely. So if you think about a motorcycle policy, guys, it's structured very similar to an automobile policy,
Hmm.
right? You will have three main layers of coverage for your motorcycle policy. Of course, the first layer of coverage is coverage for your bike itself, which what we mentioned, right? So just like your auto
Right, right.
insurance, it has comprehensive, it has collision. Most people refer to this as full coverage,
Hmm.
right? And of course,
Yep.
that's important, like you said, Christy, because that's your investment. You want to protect that.
That's the coverage for the bike. But, I mean, and I know there are some expensive bikes out there, but, maybe in general, most bikes people are, purchasing and riding around, you might be talking 10, 20, 30,000 bucks. That is not going to be the biggest risk when it comes to what can happen to you on a motorcycle.
Absolutely. Yeah. So when you are discussing setting up your motorcycle insurance policy with your agent, you want to really pay attention to the next two layers of coverage.
You
The
got it.
first one is coverage for other people. And truly, just like your auto insurance, this is where the real risk is at.
Yep. So that's your liability and your passenger liability. If you're riding with someone, frequently you really want to make sure you include passenger liability in the policy, and it doesn't come standard with every carrier. So be sure and ask about that if that's a concern.
Absolutely. And especially, with liability because it pays out to the other party when you are at fault in an accident. So legally, if you carry a passenger with you, they could legally sue you for their medical injury.
They
Um,
could. They could.
right?
Yep.
If and especially if they have medical bills, if there's more mental anguish and pain and suffering and things like that, you can be looking at a six-figure exposure very quickly.
Very quickly, very quickly. And to me, the other part of that that's equally, if not more important, as a mom of someone who I hope never gets on a motorcycle, I'll just be quite
You
honest.
just pray about
But
it.
but he knows, you're not doing that in our house. But the biggest thing about liability in the scenario of a bike in particular is you can only cover yourself with your uninsured motorist liability, up to the limit of the liability that you carry for others. We talk all the time, we talk a lot about how many drivers in this area are uninsured or underinsured. So, assuming that if someone else hits you, that their policy is going to pay for your medical bills is also a very big risk.
Absolutely. So this is the part where, we understand, if you're riding your motorcycle, how much liability damage can you really cause to somebody else? We get that
Right.
because you're not in a, you know, 10-ton vehicles, right? We get it.
Yeah.
Um, but like Christy mentioned, you have to really keep in mind that liability will also protect your guests if you're being sued
Hmm.
by your passenger, right? But you can only pick the uninsured motorist limit for yourself as high as your liability. So don't try to cheap out and just go with the state minimum of 25,000. Hey, it's just a
Yeah.
bike. I'm not going to cause that much damage. We
Yeah.
get it. But if you have 25,000 only for other people, you
Then
can
that's all you're going to
only.
get for yourself, right? So, in
Yeah,
particular, if you don't have really great health insurance, this is not the place to skimp.
absolutely. Because in reality, I think this is more countrywide, but really in our area in Tennessee, for example, you know, between 20 to 25% of drivers are on the road being underinsured or has no insurance at all. And that
Hmm.
statistic is only the ones that is recorded, guys. So that means they did get into an accident and it has to be
Right, right.
filed, it has to be reported. So you really don't know who else is riding next to you, even if you are a very, very experienced and a very careful rider.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a big buzzkill about motorcycles, and I know that. I get, how fun it must seem on the bike, but to me, it's just scary because, like you said, it doesn't matter how safe you are. It's about all the other drivers on the road.
Yeah, and you really want to make sure that, not only your bike is covered, your liability is covered, but yourself. Like you touch on the fact that if you don't have so good health insurance, you might want to make sure you have really good uninsured motorists. The other
Yeah,
thing that is really nice about uninsured motorists too, guys, is that it also work as lost wages reimbursement.
that's
So
right. Yep.
so especially if you do not have short-term and or long-term disability insurance already that's provided through work, or you purchase that personally through
Hmm.
private insurance company, you really leave that exposure to yourself, especially when you're still in your prime years where you're bringing a good income.
Yep, exactly. And so, to kind of tag on to that, if your income is providing for your family, the other thing that I would say to anybody who's on a motorcycle is make sure you have some life insurance. Because unfortunately, and again, I know I'm a big buzzkill about motorcycles, but the statistics are there and they're pretty scary about the number of motorcycle fatalities that there are every year. So you do not want to leave your family unprotected in the event that you end up being one of those.
Exactly. So, according to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, there are about 6,000 motorcycle fatality every year in the US
Mhm.
now. So, and being a rider, you are more than
It's
likely
even more dangerous, right? Yeah.
much more dangerous. So, like, according to that statistic, you are 24 times more likely to die from a crash than compared to a regular automobile passenger vehicle occupants,
Sure. Yeah.
per mile travel. So you are very vulnerable when you're out there. But
Yeah.
we just want to make sure that you have a good ride, you enjoy your bike, and be safe out there in case something happens.
Yeah. Buy some peace of mind.
Absolutely. So to wrap this up, Christy, motorcycle season is here. Our listeners who are riders really need to make sure that one, yes, their bike is correct, is
The
protected,
bike
right?
matters. Yep. Get
Yep,
the full coverage. If your bike really matters to you, if it's still worth a lot, get the full coverage. But
yep.
more so than that, get the liability coverage.
Absolutely. If you can get the max that you can get, do that because it's really dependent on, your income level and whether or not you have good health insurance or any at all, right? That
Mm-hmm.
way it
Mm-hmm.
gives you flexibility to pick your own uninsured motorist limit.
And don't skip out on the passenger liability either, especially if someone's riding with you frequently. Passenger liability can be a completely separate coverage in the policy, so make sure you ask and know how that's covered in your specific policy.
Absolutely. So now once you have your bike, your liability, and your uninsured motorist insurance take care of, Don't forget about your family, right? Life insurance really,
And get the
really
life insurance.
matters for riders. That's something we strongly recommend. If you have somebody that you love or that they are dependent on you financially, you want to make sure you take good care of them in case something happens.
You got it. If you got those dialed in, you're riding with peace of mind.
That's right. Well, if you find that this episode today was helpful, please hit the like and follow button. If you know of a rider out there that might need this episode from today, please do share. And until next time, we'll see you then.
Bye bye.